So as I said, of course we're looking at where we can improve the car. We're looking for potential to develop, and you will see visible changes coming on the car over the next few races. Why was Lewis pitted when he said the tyres were good? Well, this was the second stop, that final stop. And the reason we brought him in was because Alonso was about 2 seconds behind us. He was closing slightly. That put him very much within undercut range. And it was just a stop to make sure we could keep that position. So we would have liked to have gone longer had it not been for that threat. Now, as it happens, Alonso was a quicker car. He was actually able to pass on track anyway. And if we'd known that, we maybe would have accepted that we were going to lose that position and we'd have gone longer with Lewis, maybe having a slightly better chance against Sainz. But on the information that we had at the time, it was the only way to save that position. Why did we not pit George before Lewis when he was clearly struggling? Well, this is around the first stint, so that was on the used soft tyres. George had a bit more degradation, so he came on the radio to say that his tyres were dropping. Now, a lap or so after that, Lewis radioed to say that he was also suffering from degradation. But almost always, when you've got your two cars racing together, you would stop the lead car first. The reason you do that is because if you stop the second place car, he's always going to undercut the other, and then you've inverted the cars. So normal protocol is that you try and deal with the lead car first, and that was fundamentally why we did Lewis and then George after. Why did Lewis drop off when he was so close behind Sainz? Well, really, it was down to the life that set of tyres had had. So Lewis was straight out into a battle defending against Alonso. When Alonso got through, he was then attacking, trying to see if there was a way to take the place back. And then by the time he closed up to Carlos, the tyres had a lot of wear already. Ultimately, he didn't have the grip to be able to attack. And that was why he dropped back a bit. Once you realise you're not quick enough to get through, you may as well just preserve your tyres. Is the team considering changing the concept of the car this season? Well, people have tended to use the word concept when they mean the side pod design. And Toto had said recently that we're looking at a revision to that that's going to come along in the next few races anyway. Now, given the gap to the front, of course we're going to look at bigger departures, more radical changes. But those changes take time to turn into a faster solution in the wind tunnel, so you can't do them overnight. There's quite a lot of development that you've got to do around any sort of big change in geometry in that area. So as I said, of course we're looking at where we can improve the car. We're looking for potential to develop, and you will see visible changes coming on the car over the next few races. Did Lewis and George have different rear wings or setup changes? Well, there's always small changes on the car in terms of the springs and the roll bars, because the drivers are working with their engineers throughout the weekend to try and get the balance in the right place. We did look at a bigger rear wing on George's car on Saturday morning, so he went to one that we were running at the test. Lewis stayed with our update wing, the lighter downforce wing. And the conclusion from the Saturday running was that the wing that Lewis had, the one that was faster in a straight line, was overall quicker. So both cars were actually on the same rear wing come the race. What's the biggest learning point from the Bahrain GP? Well, ultimately, we've got a lot of work to do. So that gap in qualifying was quite large. We were over half a second to the front. In the race, that was even bigger though. And that was compounded by the fact that when you get the tyre degradation, you get a bit more sliding, the tyres run hotter, and you end up finding it very difficult to keep them under any kind of control. So there's a lot that we need to understand, but the key things are really getting on top of that long run degradation. Last year, that was a strong point for us. Clearly, we've got something that's not in the right place that we need to work on. But the other one is just ultimately the performance gap to the front. So the raw pace of the car is not good enough. We're working very hard at the moment to understand what we can do in the short-term future and in the mid-term future to try and get ourselves in a better place. It wasn't the result we wanted, but what was the biggest success from the weekend? I think, to be honest, it's seeing how well the team has worked together. It's a very difficult start to the year, and after the season we had in 2022, we certainly didn't wish for this sort of challenging a start. But everyone's been very quick to acknowledge that problem. We know that we've got a tough journey ahead of us, but we're committed to improving the car, to trying and getting back to the front. The drivers are very much on board with that. They've been working very well together to try and help us develop and improve the car. And then coming back to the team today, it's nice just to see how everyone is very honest about the challenge that's ahead of us, very humble about where we are and what we need to do to move forward, and committed to finding solutions, because we're not happy with our current performance. We know that that's not good enough, but we will be doing everything we can to improve it.